Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
Whatever is here, if it is hiding away, it's not very keen on coming forward.
And he's not the only one.
Ring the bell, Johnny. I was born on Halloween, just before midnight, and I am the 7th daughter of a 7th daughter.
Something's down there.
An abandoned cottage in the woods of Fermanagh. Some say this place was once home to an evil spirit. Others say it's still here.
Do you know what I want to say? Get behind me, Satan.
Did you not just hear that? If something was thrown outside, there's nothing outside.
The kind of results we're looking for is hard evidence.
What the hell?
There's something banging around somewhere.
Somebody has to.
They believe. The question is, do you?
Headed towards an old mountain cottage in the woodlands of Fermanagh, home to one of Northern Ireland's most infamous cases of poltergeist activity. The events took place in the early part of the last century, and according to local tradition, there's still a potent and, some say, evil kind of force that still penetrates the building today. I have to say, even on the approach to this remote cottage, the stillness in the air, the atmosphere, the eeriness of the whole place is quite overpowering.
In the spring of 1913, years after the death of her husband, widow Bridget Murphy and her 6 children took up residence here, only to be tormented, it's said, by a spirit so malign that local people suspected the family of practicing witchcraft. Tales of the Cooneen poltergeist have been told and retold all over Northern Ireland, recorded in papers, books and church records of the time. 2 years ago, another chapter was added to the story, recorded not in print or by word of mouth, but on audio tape by 2 radio documentary makers, Martin Lynn and Brian Murphy.
Hey lads, all right? Hey Andy. Andy, how you going? God, this is spooky land, isn't it?
Andy?
It is, yeah. It's really, coming up that drive there, it's just all the woods. I mean, you seem to think people are looking out from behind the trees and stuff. It's really, really creepy. I mean, this place is obviously a wreck now, but this is the location of the 1913 infamously told poltergeist story, isn't it? What can you tell me about it?
One of the best documented poltergeist hauntings, I suppose, of the era, if not of ever in this country.
And how did it begin? You know, usually it starts with a scraping or a knocking.
One night in particular, the mother and the daughters in the house started to experience and hear some noises that were coming from up above in the loft in the house. And they went outside, investigated it as much as they could, and they found nothing, and it eventually sort of gravitated from there.
Well, it got to the stage where items of furniture, bedclothes, things like that were being tossed around the rooms. There's even accounts of violent episodes. One of the daughters of the house was tending to some laundry, and one of the chest of drawers closed on her fingers.
What about the church? I mean, the church surely must have got involved at some point and tried to clear the house of any kind of evil spirits.
2 priests in particular, Father Coyle and Father Smith, did a lot for the family and tried their best to kind of make it peaceable in here.
I believe that you two spent the night here on your own, armed with some recording devices. What did you discover?
Initially, what we encountered was problems with equipment.
Oh, right.
Initially, microphones drained of power. We used a flash microphone which contained power in it,
All right.
fully charged. Before we left, we did an equipment check. That on its own is okay, but when you take it in conjunction with other things happening in the house at the same time, it got a little bit odd. Temperature drops, a sort of discernible direction that the temperature drop was coming from.
It almost felt like someone was blowing lightly on my left cheek, and it was definitely colder than the normal air that seemed to be enveloping the room and the house. There was something.
Yeah, it had that feeling of it that we'd outstayed our welcome in it.
I'm up in, obviously, one of the bedrooms. And it's weird, you're looking into the room that caused a family to flee from this house, whatever malevolence was in the house, it generated from up there. It's definitely a different house at night. It's quite an eerie place to come. I don't know if Brian heard that.
Are you feeling that as well?
Yeah.
Very cold.
Very cool. Oh,
What's that?
I don't know. It was like something that fell that I was saying, you know, from the side of the wall a bit like the but that was a wee bit heavier and it was straight in front of me. Anyway.
After 2 silent hours in the freezing cold, the sudden mysterious sound of a heavy impact brought Brian and Martin's vigil to an abrupt end.
This is not.
What's up?
This is wrong. There's something.
Right.
Out.
What's up? Whoa. Right.
Yeah, out. I don't know. I don't care.
This would have been the room where Annie Murphy and the rest of her sisters would have slept and spent a lot of the time, and a room where a lot of the manifestations and noises would have been emanating from.
So this is where it was all focused upon?
Probably the major, anything major that would have went on in the house happened in this room.
Above that was a loft area, and there were descriptions of forces of some kind coming down from the loft area along the walls and turning at angles. One documented account is of the sound actually plummeting below the surface of the ground.
Really?
And actually the sound emanating like from the ground itself. Other occasions it came down along the wall and out into the middle of the room.
Which makes me wonder, is it the site itself that caused that particular poltergeist occurrence, or is it the family?
To discern any link between the phenomenon recorded by Martin and Brian and the infamous poltergeist of Cooneen, Andy will need to find out exactly what happened to the widow Murphy and her family in the spring of 1913. At nearby 5 Mile Town Library, he's arranged to meet amateur historian Alex Elliott.
Mr. Elliott, Andy Matthews, lovely to meet you.
Since I came to 5 Mile Town here 60 years ago, I'd taken an interest in this Cooneen ghost. It caused quite a stir around the country at the time it was active. And I have read anything and studied any facts about it. And Shane Leslie wrote a book about it there, and he has the best information, I believe, and the most accurate information there is on the Cooneen ghost. He got his facts from the priests. They were there constantly.
What kind of things stick out in your mind?
Father Coyle said one of the most alarming things he saw was, while they were standing there chatting, all of a sudden something appeared to come down from the ceiling in an awful rush. They didn't see it, no, couldn't describe what it was. Something just went into the ground at their feet. And this really frightened them. And when they looked around, the priest noticed that the bed in the corner, there was a white sheet or something, it seemed to be moving. And was gradually formed the shape of a human body laying on the sheet on the bed. And where the sheet was moving was where this form was breathing hard. And he said, the priest described it, he would have known such things. It was like a hard death, what they called in the country. Somebody's breathing their last.
Yeah.
So the thing on the bed breathed at his last, gasped, and faded away. The bed flattened out, and everything was as quiet was nothing more at all.
Sudden, unexplained noise and movement is typical of what's often described as poltergeist activity, a German word literally meaning noise-making ghost. This, according to every version of the story, is what Bridget Murphy and her family experienced at Cooneen. Andy, however, is not so sure. Medium Marion Goodfellow knows nothing about the legend of Cooneen. In time, Andy will share what he's learned, but for now, he's more interested in what Marion can discern with her own senses.
Good grief.
As they make their way through the woods towards the cottage, Marion's already sensing a disagreeable presence.
As we were walking up the path, you know, I was holding on to Andy, and Andy was also feeling my trepidation. The energy that you feel as you're walking up the path is awful. It's awesome. Yeah, it's just that thump here in my chest. Why it should feel so bad, I haven't a clue. Nobody is communicating with me, apart from trying to keep me out. You've brought me to some places.
I know.
You're feeling it too?
Yeah. I felt it when I got here earlier, but I was feeling what she was feeling, and it was very unnerving. At one point, it was almost like, no, I just want to go back.
I've got a man, about 5'8", tall, does not want me here.
No.
Doesn't want us here. Don't want anybody here. Oh. I mean, I come into this place with all the love in the world. And if I could help this soul or this place, and I would revert to anything that would lighten the energy around this place, and certainly I would ask a priest to accompany me and bless this place, if he'd dare come up the path. I think his name is John. I don't know, it's just that name came to me. He's not being very nice.
Tell him we mean him no harm.
It's horrendous. The energy that's surrounding this personality.
Is it surrounding the building?
Absolutely, it's in the very core, the very fabric of the place. Look at the trees. He's got a dark coat on. And when I first saw him, he was like clenching a piece of stone that was quite flat. Do you know what I want to say? What? Get behind me, Satan. You know, just go away. You know, it was really surreal because on my way here, I had the image of this gentleman. I only saw his arm and his upper torso, and he was holding in his hand a flat rock, piece of stone. That's like the flat stone he was holding. And it was just like the piece of stone in what we're calling the kitchen. And he picked it up, it was really heavy. But in my vision of this man, he was holding it as if it was nothing. It's like as if there's something to hide, and he doesn't want me to find it. This man likes to hurt people, he likes to scare people.
Do you think the man lived here?
Nobody, he frequented the place, definitely. What's turned him into this almost freak of nature? That's how I feel.
This was once a bedroom.
I'm asking everybody that's upstairs, you know, to come round us and protect us, because I feel you need that sort of protection. This is something I'm not used to. I'm not used to feeling like this. This is a better feeling.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is a bit lighter. Them other two rooms are and the whole area outside this place is stifling.
Yeah.
I've never ever come across a place like it.
Nor have I.
It's like, what the hell you brought me here for? I wouldn't want anything that's this dark and dismal to come into my psyche, to be in my subconscious mind. You know, I've got to carry this mind around with me on a day-to-day basis. I don't want what's in there.
So you think if anybody was to stay here for any length of time, eventually they'd be forced out?
They would, definitely. Nobody would stay here. Nobody in their right minds, anyway, would want to stay here.
Keen to throw more light on this dark tale, Andy pays a visit to Enniskillen Library, where a host of early 20th century newspaper reports and other written accounts of the Cooneen ghost are held.
I'm investigating the Cooneen ghost, and it's over 100 years old, this case, isn't it?
It is indeed, and we have hard copies here of both the Fermanagh Herald and Impartial Reporter.
My word, there it is, yeah.
It's
got a door.
House.
So I went up there the other day. It's basically just a wreck now. Richard Murphy, son James, 5 daughters, yeah. I stood in the children's bedroom, Father Call told us, and watched the clothes on the empty bed rising and falling at exactly the rhythm of a person breathing. I mean, there's so many witnesses to this case. The knocks, the tap-ins. It's just incredible, really. Plates and cups being thrown. There was really no ghost origin dating from real life except a rumour that an old pensioner had been murdered there on the day he drew his quarter. When it was asked to play the Soldier's Song, the tune came in taps because it used to tap and make the knock-ins, and it seems to like the Soldier's Song. That's interesting.
The late Shane Leslie, who documented the Cooneen poltergeist in his celebrated Ghost Book, was reputed to be the foremost authority on the subject. His son, Sir Jack, now 93, has agreed to meet with Andy at the family seat, Castle Leslie in Monaghan.
Once he saw a human form raised under the sheets of an empty bed. He described it as like an animal moving underneath. He felt fear when it was spitting at him or lapping like a dog, or escaping under him on the bed. He always addressed it as Johnny.
Now, I've been investigating the Cooneen ghost, and
Yes.
your father, Shane Leslie, has written about the Cooneen ghost in his book, his ghost
This
book.
book,
And
yes.
that was there.
Well, I'm glad you found it so interesting.
But it was fascinating.
It sounds rather a creepy sort of place, the strange atmosphere.
It is a very, very strange place. He had an interest in the paranormal, didn't he?
Yes.
Which was a lifelong interest.
Yes, he always did.
How did he get into that? How did
He
he
just
start?
was interested in it.
What was his first investigation of a haunted house? Did he ever tell you that?
Well, he had this group at Cambridge of friends of his who were similar tastes. So much was said and rumoured that I'm glad to have interviewed the three priests and obtained the most trustworthy evidence concerning the Cooneen ghost. It remains to be added that the family retreated to America, where they were no more troubled.
Even now, local opinion differs on the subject of the Cooneen poltergeist. According to Alex Elliott and others, when the Murphys fled to America, they weren't alone.
They said that the ghost followed them. They must have had some communication. They still had friends at Cooneen. And that they had to move several times in America, and eventually, as apparently always happens, while the children grew up, they disappeared and left them alone.
We have it here that they left on the SS Praetorian sailing from Glasgow on the 31st of July 1915. And there they are, Bridget and her family. And in 1930, they're still there. As to whether the poltergeist actually followed them, as the saying goes, or the legend goes, if you like, is open to debate. It's probably local folklore and hearsay. Having said that, I've been up to this place, and I can't begin to explain how strange and unnerving the place is. And Marion herself stated to me that it's probably the worst place she's ever been in. And she's been in a lot of haunted buildings over the years. So hopefully we're going to be able to find some kind of evidence to back up this story, to see if anything still remains at Cooneen Cottage, because I feel that there is something dark and brooding still remaining there.
The paranormal study and investigation teams specialise in separating scientific fact from superstitious fiction. Tonight, armed with a battery of high-tech equipment, the team will test whether, as Brian and Martin believe, the spirit that once tormented the Murphy family still resides here in the woods of Cooneen.
To carry out an investigation in a place like this is extremely difficult because we've got all the elements at play here. We've got the wind, we've got rustling trees, so to carry out experiments will be difficult to pinpoint what is natural and what might be something else.
That'd be a good idea actually, to stick a pot or a pan or something here in case we do get some kind of reaction.
That's certainly it's a creepy place. It has all the perfect setting. Be interesting to see exactly what the psychological effects of that would be, obviously on the guys that are getting there.
Well guys, we've had a good look round in them. Yeah, apparently the rappings and tappings are the most frequently reported. Now you set some cameras up where?
We have one camera in the upstairs,
right,
just above where the knocking's supposed to be heard with the beams.
Right.
And the second camera is into the right, which we have maybe.
Oh, that's the children's bedroom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I felt the most heavy, depressed area.
We've got
Definitely.
microphones in there as well.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, firstly, I think we should try the music experiment. It's an experiment that I tried many years ago, and I know you guys have as well. And we know from the books that I looked at yesterday regarding this case that the poltergeist used to react and knock in rhythmic patterns to the sound of music.
If spirits exist, they may react to a particular piece of music that they may recognise from that time period.
With no apparent response to the audio signal, the team move on to another experiment. This time a means of revealing any physical presence that may be manifesting itself in the cottage.
What we're going to do is we're going to set up a smoke machine just in the bedroom, the front bedroom, and the idea is that hopefully if there is spirit in there, it'll obviously come forward and it'll create an image or we'll see some displacement within the smoke. To capture the images, hopefully we're going to be able to do that in two ways. Number one is with a digicam, which is within the room, so obviously hopefully we'll get some video footage that way. And the other way is Roddy is going to take some snaps, some still snaps, and see if we can pick up something there as well. We ask that you come forward and show yourself. If that was you, can you come forward and tell us why?
So far, both experiments appear to have drawn a blank. Marion suggests another approach. Offering any spirit that may be here a series of familiar early 20th century objects, she'll now attempt to make contact.
I know you don't like me here. All I would ask you to do is tell me to leave. Shut. Ring the bell, Johnny. Feel my back. It's hot.
Yeah. So lynching.
Early next morning, Andy, Marion and the team reconvene at the cottage, hoping for more subtle evidence in the form of electronic voice phenomena picked up in the course of last night's vigil.
Not very much forthcoming last night, but how did we get on with EVPs? Anything interesting?
Well, it's a bit disappointing for EVPs. There's very, very little picked up in the microphones or the voice recorders. I suppose that's good because, you know, if nothing really happens, you want to show that nothing really happens. But there was one little thing that stood out a bit. In the session that we did in the main room with the fire and the bell and everything with myself, Marianne and Andy, there was something that come onto the audio recording that sounded like a voice. Now it's a little bit electronic sounding because I had to bring the volume up a little bit and take the noise out.
Right.
Call me crazy, but it sounds to me like, "Hi, Andy."
You struggling with it?
Yeah, I can hear it, but it's... that's all we had. You know, I was expecting probably a little bit more phenomena, a few more voices, even the rappings and the knock-ins that have been reported. We had none of that whatsoever.
About a minute before.
We are just trying to make contact.
That's what Marion said. We were just trying to make contact. 45 seconds later, you have...
It's very easy to make that jump from getting what sounds like a voice to the jump to say it's possibly spirit. You know, we're not going to do that. We're not going to say that. It may have been noise contamination. When you come to a location like this with high expectations, if it is allegedly haunted, that this is where we're going to get something. Unfortunately, there's no light switch and you can flick on or off in this game, and rather disappointing evening.
You know, I thought we would have got a lot more. But then again, I don't think it's a normal haunting. I don't think it's something like, you know, some of the other places we've been to. This is something that's localised. I'm thinking now that, you know, maybe we're approaching this in the wrong way. We've gone in there with far too much technology, far too much intrusion, far too much going on. So I think I'd like to approach it the way Martin and Brian did, and that's go a little bit more softly. So I'm going to send the lads back in tonight, just them, their field equipment, and let's see if whatever is there is going to show itself when it's quiet.
So we're back here to see if just us being here alone will make any difference, just with cameras and just with digital voice recorders, and see if we can capture something that may suggest some type of evidence. The ghost of Cooneen, are you here? Talk to me. Communicate with me. Is anyone here?
Battery is draining here. It's flashing up.
But it shouldn't be.
It's flashing up saying it's out.
Cormac, that battery, whenever I turned the camera on, was saying... Hang on, that did say 64 minutes.
Did, yeah.
That said 64 minutes when you come in.
This camera that I'm using has a lot of information up on the screen whenever I'm filming. And for the first time ever that I've ever used this camera, everything is just wiped completely off the viewfinder. All the information, the battery meters.
saying 109 minutes a minute ago, and it's dropped down to 66 minutes. Literally within the space of about 2 or 3 minutes.
That's exactly what happened to the other guy soon. He done a vigil here, was all their gear just packed in, bodies drained. It's turned on, went to take a photograph, and it's just died. So it's switched back on again. So let's see. Won't let me take a photograph. What the Did you not just hear that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was like
something was thrown outside. There's nothing outside. That was loud.
Sounded like a rock being thrown.
On a mind.
Oh, I like the way you're making me go out first.
You are the leader.
Hello? Any chance of being vandals or anything? God, is
No, there's not going to be anyone up here this time of night. Well, I guess.
In the morning, with the unsettling events of the night still fresh in their minds, the team have been busy analysing the data they managed to collect before the last of the batteries gave out.
Cormac, that battery, whenever I turned the camera on, was saying, hang on, that did say 64 minutes. That said 64 minutes we come in.
I mean, I've had battery drainage in the past, but I've never had it go on 1, 2, 3 cameras like that.
Well, exactly.
So
I mean,
quickly,
you can put it down to certain things. You can probably put it down to the temperature and everything else that can affect batteries. But in this case, it's all the batteries, not cameras.
Obviously, the place is associated with a poltergeist, and poltergeists are known, allegedly, to be able to drain energy from people, microwave ovens, television sets, play around with circuitry. But there's nothing here for it to draw power from except us, our own energy fields, and our equipment.
I said, if you're here, give us a sign.
Yeah.
Now, not to run away with it. It could have been coincidence that the equipment started to fail, but it was at that point. And at that stage, it's when I heard the loud bang just outside here in the forest, which, to be honest, unnerved me a little. I came out to have a look, thinking, right, is someone here playing jokes? But there wasn't.
Where did it come from?
It seemed to be somewhere around this area here in front of us. To be honest about it, it almost did feel like, you know, there was something watching you, or some eyes were looking out of the trees at you, but again, that could be psychological. Also, we have got some strange photographs on another digital camera.
In some shots, not others, you can see like a black band across the top and bottom of the photograph. In this one, I've kind of demonstrated with my fingers across the front of the camera to see if that's possibly what it could have been.
It's usually a camera strap or something in these situations.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
In this one, you can see a clear band across the bottom and the top of the image, but the actual centre of the image is not obscured at all.
As Tony says, no matter where we are in each particular picture, it seems to allow you to see our faces, but that's it.
It's probably on my top 5 scariest places I've been to in 10, 12 years. I would be in no great rush to come back here.
Some say that whatever spirit tormented Bridget Murphy and her family nearly a century ago left Cooneen along with them. So what exactly did Martin, Brian and the PSI team experience here? Andy and Marion believe it was the spirit of the place itself. The question is, do you?